Welcome to the Church Answers podcast. My name is Jess Rayner. I'm here with my dad, Thom Rayner, as always. For not always, most of the time. It's you and me, and we're glad that you're here today. For those of you who are listening, maybe those of you who are watching on YouTube, we're excited to have another discussion about church, particularly things that are happening within the pastorate. And so, Dad, this is your sweet spot today. We're talking some statistics, which you love. It's a very specific statistical set.
Probably too much. That's why I have had a series of podcasts and articles called The Church Number, because I love the church and I like numbers, and you put them together, and I have a deep affection for the church number.
You are an odd duck.
I am an odd duck.
There's no other way to put it. And I think if any of our listeners have been listening for any length of time, in fact, maybe this is their first podcast, they probably have already picked up on the fact that you are an odd duck.
It's really weird how numbers stick in my mind. You know, we recently had our platinum event where we had our platinum consulting clients come to Franklin, and we entertained them and gave them information. And somebody asked me, I think it was at the Mill the night before we began, right. Someone said, "How do you have all these numbers?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "But did you know that the population of Union Springs, Alabama was 3,703 in 1960? And so somebody AI'd that, and it was, and they accused me of setting it up. I said, no, not at all. And just to let you know, the population of Evergreen, Alabama was one less, 3,702 in 1960.
There you go. You know, I do get it, honestly. I have memorized at least one credit card number. I know two of my checking account numbers by heart. And so I know my whole family's social security numbers by heart. So, you know,
You get it.
I do some of those things. And my wife's like, "How do you know all this?" She'll ask me like for a certain credit card number, and I'll just tell it to her verbally. And she's like, "What?"
Well, your mom was filling out some papers, and I think you were the closest of kin to be notified. She was having minor surgery, and so she put your name in there. She says, "Oh, I need his phone number," and I was driving at the time. I said, "No problem," and so I spit it out. I'm not going to do it over but you're the only one who's never changed his number.
So you should. I've had the same cell phone number my entire life. I got my first cell phone when I was in 7th grade, and I've had the same exact cell phone number. I don't know why. I've just never changed it.
Well, it's a 502 area code. It was Louisville, Kentucky. Still is today.
That's right. Well, we're going to be talking about a specific statistical set that my dad is quite excited about. And for you all that are listening, we're gonna make it exciting for you guys as well, because it does have some implications for the church. And so if you're a church leader and you're thinking about, you know, the pastorate, and you're thinking maybe you're a pastor, there's this missing generation. This 5 years of a certain data set for pastors that we're going to be talking about that is just underrepresented in the local church today. But before we jump into that, we want to thank one of our sponsors, and that is Wesley Biblical Seminary. They are focused on developing trusted leaders for faithful churches, and they offer pretty much every type of degree you could look for, anywhere from a certificate all the way up to a doctoral degree. And since 1974, they have been faithfully fulfilling its mission. They are committed to the inerrancy of Scripture and the transforming power of the Holy Spirit. So if you're looking for some further biblical education, we encourage you to check out Wesley Biblical Seminary. Go to wbs.edu, or if you're watching, you can click on, or if you're looking at something, you can click on the show notes and go directly to the link. We're super thankful for them and all they're doing for the local
couple
church.
of points about them. Number one,
sure.
They offer all kinds of ways to get your degree. So if you want it all online, you can get it all online. If you want asynchronous and synchronous, if you want to do it with other people there, or if you want to do it without other people there and do it at your own pace, you can do that. But then they don't even know about this. Let's see, when is this airing? I hope I can have it finalized before October 22nd, 2025. But I'm going to be asking them to set up an in-person campus in the Atlanta area in Cobb County at Peace Church.
Okay.
And Peace Church has always had an educational arm. I can tell you a lot about that church. I believe it's in Cobb County. And Peace Church has said, we would love to have this seminary offer classes, either someone teaching it from afar or someone teaching it there or just going over the videos with the class. So
Yeah.
I think we'll be going. That's Tyrone Barnett. You know Tyrone,
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I put two and two together. Yeah. We love what Wesley Biblical Seminary is doing. They're always on the cutting edge of education. And so if you're looking for a degree that could fit you, we encourage you to go check them out. Well, we're talking about a church number today, and the church number is 46 to 50. 46 to 50. And Dad, you've called this the missing generation. Why pastors that are ages 46 to 50 are underrepresented. So give us a little bit of the background, get the statistical stuff out of the way, and then we'll look at the implications and the applications for it.
Well, a 60 song keeps coming to mind,
Of
and
course.
it was by a group called Chicago, and they had a song called 25 or 6 to 4. And I don't know why this 46 to 50 reminds me of that song. It's just some numbers, but their song was 25 or 6 to 4. And I'm just thinking, they used to be Chicago Transit Authority, then they were Chicago. Okay, I'll talk to you about 46 to 50. I see the anxiety on your face. I'm about to
Yeah,
give you some
I was. If
background.
there was a graph of like our live listeners, or I'm sorry, people who actually just dropped off the podcast right then, if I could see that, it would have been just a major dip. And so let's try and get them back.
You know those political graphs when they like what you're saying and it goes up, and when they don't. I can tell you what would have happened then. So,
Right.
first of all, what is 46 to 50? It's the age of the people that where there are very few pastoral candidates. Okay, so
Okay.
46 to 50. Where does the data come from? You can look in the show notes. It comes from the 2023 Faith Communities Today study, which is called the Fact Study, and they updated it in 2023. And they reported it in 2024 for 2023. This was a midpoint update. They usually do it every 5 years, but they wanted to get some updates because of COVID. And they surveyed 15,000 congregations. So this is one of the most statistically robust sets of data that you can have. But here's the bottom line. There are a number of pastors that do not fall into the 46 to 50 age bracket. Okay. Now, Jess, you and I don't really rehearse for these podcasts. We just kind of look over the notes and go for it. So if you do a survey of a church, any church without a pastor, and you ask, I really don't like them doing this, but you ask, what range age would you like our next pastor to be? What do you think they're going to say?
And it's always around mid 40s.
Right now, 46 to 50 is the most voluminous answer. There's some in the 35 to 40 group. There's some in the 46 to 50 group, and some that overlap like 40 to 50. But this particular group, 46 to 50, is the most demanded or in request age. Now, I don't like churches that do that. I have my own personal preferences there, but it is a reality. So we've got a 5-year period when churches are saying, we want our next pastor to be 46 to 50. And they're not there.
Yep.
They are absolutely gone. And we're going to identify where they went. Where have all the 40-something pastors gone? Long time passing. Where have all the pastors gone? Long time ago. Anyway, I was thinking of another 60s song, but we'll move on.
Thank you for that. Okay, so here's what we did. Be looking at the statistical research that was done. There's a major underrepresentation of pastors between the ages of 46 and 50, which is often the most sought after age for a church looking for a pastor. So let's go maybe the why, and then we'll go with the what do we do about it. So give us the why. Why does that exist right now? Because I mean that does seem a very tight range. It's and I guess one of the major reasons is because that's what churches are looking for. But give us the why that age group is missing.
Okay, so first of all, we know from the fact study that there's a clear dip in pastors available between 46 to 50. Every other adult age is pretty well represented until you get real old. So they're pretty
Like
much
you.
yeah, like me. Not anybody's looking for a 70-year-old pastor. Not anybody's looking for a 70-year-old anything these days. This gap is a statistical reality. Now, here this group was born in the 1970s, And this was the drop off birth rate. You had the baby boom years, 1946 to 1964. Then you started having a decline. And then you hit this period that now encompasses the 46 to 50 years old. And it was like a demographic cliff. The numbers fell off, especially compared to the previous baby boom that was slowly declining. And if you look at a chart, it's like from slow decline the mountain to, oh, it's just a cliff now. We're falling off the cliff. And it held for those 5 years. So there's a demographic reality. There's this massive lack of births during this period, so there's lack of these pastors. It's demographic reality. If you are looking for a CEO for your company that's in the age range of 46 to 50, you're going to have trouble finding that person. It's
Right,
just a
right.
it's a demographic cliff.
So
So
this
what
5 year age gap has continued to carry through. Like it's 5 years ago it was 40 to 45 was a low demographic gap as well, and so it starts off at a deficit, is what you're saying.
it does,
But
and you can't do away with it because you cannot force people to be born yesterday.
no, you can't. So, but that's a major piece of the why behind this. But there's also some other reasons beyond just the generational lack of births that took place. So you have the gap identified, you have the possible demographic explanation, but also there's this seminary and ministry pipeline factors. Tell us more about that.
So you keep moving forward, and this gap is moving forward as time progresses. Like you said, it was 35 to 40. Now it's 40 to 45. 10 years ago, it was 30 to 35. We could go on ad infinitum. So that gap existed, but there was a concurrent factor that was taking place, and that was seminary enrollments were shrinking. In other words, seminary and institutional education or institutional religion was at one of its low points in popularity. It's pretty low
Hmm.
now, but it really it was like it just went off the charts. There was this protest in some ways, kind of a I don't want to call it a silent protest, but an implicit protest that said, this institutional education is not the best, and so it affected seminaries and the pipeline where church members would send their pastor candidates to seminary. That pipeline began to dry up because churches and seminaries were not in vogue as much as they had been in the past.
Hmm. And so this is the gap you're saying between, correct me if I'm wrong, between the boomers and Gen X. Is that
It
right?
is. It is.
Okay.
It is the boomers going into Gen X. We're dealing with Gen X. Okay.
Hmm.
So let me do my numbers for just a moment. The youngest boomer right now would have been born in 1964. So that boomer's already in his 50s, right?
Sounds good. I'll go with that.
Okay. Okay. But this is the other side of the baby boom. This is Gen X, where
Hmm.
the numbers start falling off. And Gen X was one of the reasons they were named Gen X. A guy by the name of Douglas Copeland gave them that name because he said they're the X factor. They don't really like anything. They're just
Right.
they're just kind of blasé, if you will. And that included institutional religion. So you had fewer of them. This was the smallest number born in that period. And on top of that, many of them were not keen to theological education, to seminaries or further education. So all of a sudden you had less supply, less training, but the demand was still the same because you still had around 375,000 churches, now around 400,000 churches.
Yeah, and Gen X has always been, let me say, one of their main describers has always been just this lack of institutional trust.
Exactly.
And so that's poured over into religion, into the church, but it's also poured over into higher education. And so now you have this seminary and ministry pipeline factors that is exacerbated by the low number of live births during the season. And so it's created this, again, this is the whole reason we're talking about it. It's phenomenon is a little strong, but it's clear that this clear,
Not too strong. It is a phenomenon. This 5 year period is a phenomenon.
it's created this clear gap in the life of developing pastors, and churches are seeing some of the implications of this. Like we're beginning to see it. Before we talk about that, we want to talk about one implication for your church, and it's an implication
Pretty
that
good
if
segue.
you
Pretty good.
yeah, I give it a C plus. If you could think about one way you could reach your church, um, you need to go and you need to get a hold of Upward Sports. And the implications for that is huge because here's what you can begin to do. You can begin to reach your community in a whole new way that you've never done before. If you're familiar with Upward, maybe you're familiar with them with Upward Basketball. That's how they got their start. If you're familiar with them, they have continued to grow in their offerings, and the latest offering they have is pickleball. Um,
Pickleball. Love my pickleball.
Pickleball.
Never played it, but
Right
I
now,
love it.
if you want to go and go to upward.org/pickleball, they're actually giving away 2 free net sets. And here's what they want to do: they want to help your church launch a sports ministry based off the fastest growing sport in the United States. In fact, I was camping with my family this past week, and we were at a campground, and we brought our pickleball paddles and balls, and we played pickleball. So there was multi-generational
You got
playing pickleball.
you got pickleballs. You got
We
all the
do.
equipment. I want to
We
play.
do. We have it. We actually one of I think I mentioned this in another podcast. One of my daughters is in a pickleball class, and so she actually has this return thing that she hits it and it returns it back to her. Lots of different things. All that to say is you have an opportunity in your community to reach them through pickleball. So go to upward.org/pickleball and just see what they can do for you. Just get on a call. Just get some information. Let the process begin, and just see. And so we're super thankful for them. Super thankful for Upward Sports and what they're doing. Well, we're talking about a church number, and it is pastors aged 46 to 50. There's a gap that's identified. We've talked about the possible demographic explanation. We've talked about the seminary ministry pipeline factors. Well, let's talk about the implications, and this is implications for leadership transitions. And there's an implication here, Dad. When you take a minute just to explain it to us.
Well, there has been a pretty even a number in the demographic pipeline for pastors. And there would be a number that would come in, and churches could go 6 to 9 months usually. And depending upon how they did their pastor search, whether it's appointment or whether it's a congregational vote, they would go, and it'd typically be 6 to 9 months. This started a period where pastoral searches started going way beyond a year. And for different reasons, it's even going further out. And
Okay.
it's still a challenge there. But what is happening is you've got fewer middle-aged pastors. And I hate to say middle-aged because all 3 of my sons are in this category. Right?
Not me.
No.
No.
Oh, 45. Just Sam. Just
Yeah.
Sam. Just Sam. You. That's right. Yeah. That. My bad. But you're still middle age. I mean,
I am.
You're 40. You're 40.
Statistically speaking, I the average, I'm past the halfway mark for the average U.S. male.
But let me tell you what's happened on the older end, which would be represented by my generation. Baby boomers always get all the attention because they're the big generation, 76 million born between 1946 and 1964. But here's what's happening. I represent the middle of that generation, 1955. Mm-hmm. So I'm 70, but the older ones are approaching 80. Okay.
Right.
The younger ones are in their 60s. What is happening is the boomer pastors have been holding on. I mean, just like that 60 song, you just keep me hanging on. And they have been holding on to their positions, but now they're too old to keep holding on.
Right.
And so those in the mid 70s and my age at 70, they're now letting go. And this is the first time they've really let go. But guess what? There's no one behind them. Not enough anyway.
I see that. There's churches I work with, even in my area in the South here in Tennessee. We see it time and time again that pastors are just like, I'm afraid to retire because I'm afraid who's gonna take over. What used to be, a church would, a pastor would retire and the church would begin a search process, and it would take 6 months, a year. They know that's gone, especially if you're looking at the median sized church is 55 now. Now finding a pastor is basically finding someone who's already local.
Yeah.
Very, very few pastors are going to relocate for those size churches. And so now not only is the pool smaller of who to pass the baton on to, but also you've limited yourself geographically. And so
Exactly.
the implications keep growing fast based off this age gap. And again, there is some effects on either side of the age gap as well. But churches are just trying to figure out, what do we do next? In fact, if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you're in this place and you're thinking, well, what do I do? Well, here's the good news. Thom Rainer has the answer for you.
Well,
this is why we call it the Church Answers podcast.
Let's say Church Answers has that. Well, first of all, we've got to get out of the old paradigm. We just cannot continue to think about the box we've been in, like, oh, a pastor retires, let's go get a search committee or an appointment process together, and let's go after our 40-something pastor. Well, first of all, most churches cannot get a full-time pastor at all. That's where we are right now. The majority of churches cannot get a true full-time pastor. And then even if you have the funds to pay a full-time pastor, they're not there for you. So we have to start thinking of new paradigms. And what does that mean? Start raising people up within your church. Start raising up people in the millennial generation. Start raising up Gen Xers. Gen Xers, of course, will be a bit on the older side, but start raising them up. And truly, we have to start looking at the co-vocational model. Jess, at Church Answers Central every week, we feature one of our members. And the member that we featured this week has a staff of, like, if I recall correctly, 8, including himself, a ministry staff of 8, and his church is averaging 200 in attendance. Well, guess what? They're all co-vocational except him. And he says it's cooking. It's just really, really cooking. That's a church that said, we can't do it the old way. We got to do it a new way. And that's one of the solutions. Raising them up within your church, or being willing to go co-vocational. And that's what you're doing, Jess, at the Church of Spring Hill.
Yeah, I'm pretty much co-vocational here as well. Only full-time,
That's true.
but have many, many part-time as well. So, but it's the idea of, like, how do you, if you're a pastor that's, say, 70 and you're looking to retire, I think the greatest thing you can do is just try and find one person that you can begin to raise up.
Exactly.
That could potentially be a co-vocational pastor.
Exactly.
And I think that's that mindset. I think most pastors think, I got to go find someone that can take over full-time.
Right.
Well, there's a good chance it's just not going to happen. You may be the full-time pastor, but the future of the church is probably not a full-time pastor. And so if you can begin to find someone and start developing teams that are co-vocational and start dispersing, you basically, what you're saying is, I'm going to replace me with maybe 3 people, maybe a half-time and then 2 quarter times.
Exactly.
And then you begin to develop out this model that the church can sustain, and probably actually maybe from a financial standpoint come off a little bit better, because there's I mean, just from a pure financial standpoint, some of the benefits aren't as necessary.
Right.
I don't want you to not give benefits if you can, but sometimes it's different with part-time. So churches need to begin to develop this pipeline. It's needed, and that's, maybe if you're listening to this podcast, maybe that's just the little shift. It's like, okay, begin to talk to some of your leaders. Tell them about this age gap. Have them come listen to this podcast. Have them understand what needs to happen next, and begin to have those discussions about, how do we move forward with the future.
Let me give
any thoughts on this one.
Yep. Last thought. I don't want to mix numbers with numbers, but I'm about to mix another number with these numbers. 60% plus. So greater than 60%. That's the percentage of churches that can no longer afford a true full-time pastor. You may think that they're full-time, but you're not paying them enough. So a true 60% of churches cannot afford that. That number will continue to increase. That's just more urgency to find a new model.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're all here at the Church Answers team, here at the Church Answers podcast. We're always trying to look ahead, and we're always trying to help you guys, if you're a ministry leader, and figure out, what do I do next? And so I think this is one of those podcasts. It's really important. It really is painting a picture of what's happening now and what's going to be happening in the future. If you are thinking about your future, maybe you're a ministry leader and you're thinking about, well, I would like some education. Maybe you're thinking, hey, is there someone in my church that I could begin to help them get a biblical education? we encourage you to go check out Wesley Biblical Seminary. Go to wbs.edu. Anywhere from a certificate program all the way up to a doctoral degree. And you may just want to contact them and just get some of that theological training that you're looking to raise up someone. Maybe even for you, maybe you're looking for it. They have all different types of education, super flexible. They are fully accredited, living out their mission, fully committed to the inerrancy of Scripture and the transforming power of the Holy Spirit. So if you have any biblical education needs, go check out Wesley Biblical Seminary at wbs.edu.
It's a great choice.
Thanks again for joining us on the Church Answers podcast. As always, we love having you here, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.